So, thank you all so much for joining us for Breaking Through Self Doubt, a guide to overcoming imposter syndrome. Have you ever hesitated to apply for a job because you felt you weren't qualified enough, or doubted your abilities during an interview or while collaborating with colleagues? Why do some of us confidently pursue new opportunities while others feel like frauds, despite having the skills and experience? If you've ever watched others succeed in their careers and wished for the confidence to do the same, you can. So, in this transformational talk, confidence coach Linda Ugelow delivers a holistic methodology that gets to the root of what's stopping you from recognizing your true potential. And Linda is the author of the book, Delight in the Limelight: Overcome Your Fear of Being Seen and Realize Your Dreams. And she hosts and produces a podcast of the same name. And I again want to thank the Friends of the Library for sponsoring all our programs. So, all 97 of us who are watching live and the many more that will watch the recording, let's give a big virtual round of applause to Linda for joining us this morning. And Linda, you can take it away. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Robert. I'm going to go share my screen now and we'll get started. So, I was thinking about our topic today, imposter syndrome, and it took me back to a moment in a steakhouse bathroom somewhere in the middle of the country. I had just finished an afternoon show with my Women's World Music group, and normally we grab dinner somewhere. And because I'm an introvert, I always needed a minute to decompress after a show. So I tossed my jacket down, ran to the restroom, and splashed cold water on my face. And it felt so good to breathe. And I thought, that was okay. That went fine. Two more to go. And as I was thinking this, I heard a woman enter and say, "Can I touch you?" And I thought, "Can you touch me? In the bathroom? Sure?" And she said, "You're in Labana, right?" "Oh, yes, I'm in the group." "You're the best. I'm a huge fan. I love to sing, but I just sing at home or in the grocery store, at karaoke with friends. I'm not like you. I'm not a professional." I said, "Thank you." But I couldn't actually take it in because I didn't believe the words she said. All it did was highlight the fact that I felt like a fraud. I'm not professional. I'm not, I never learned to sing as a kid. Karaoke? Are you kidding? I'd worry I'd be off pitch. My voice would crack. I don't feel at ease and I don't feel good enough. Now, maybe you've had moments where you too felt like a fraud, undeserving, out of place, or not good enough. You look around and think, everyone else is a professional, a real professional. They know what they're doing, they've got it all together. Yep, you spent time building your expertise, working hard, achieving your career milestones. But then comes the time to put yourself out there, apply for jobs, attend interviews, network with others. And at some point, that feeling of self doubt sneaks up and taps you on the shoulder and says, "Excuse me, but you don't know what you're doing." Have you ever thought, who am I to apply for this job? Am I qualified? I have to go to this interview, but how long will it take before they see right through me? Do I deserve to ask for a higher salary? Perhaps you recognize some of these doubts and have started to seek solutions to overcome them. And if you're like me, you've turned to Google, looking up how to overcome imposter syndrome. And what do you find? Sweetie, everyone feels this way. You're not alone. True, imposter syndrome impacts people everywhere from entry level employees to CEOs. And it doesn't just affect job seekers, people across all industries and experience it. Even, hey, Neil Armstrong, the first man on the moon, admitted he felt like an imposter when he was in a room with artists and creatives. He said, "I didn't create anything. All I did was go to the place my boss sent me." Now, there's something nice about knowing that you've got company, that you're not alone in this feeling. But is it really the club you want to belong to forever? What else do you find on Google? Track and measure your successes. Perhaps you've heard of Maya Angelou. She wrote 9 books, and she was hugely successful and made an enormous impact on civil rights. Yet, when writing her ninth book, she said, I still feel like someone's going to find out I'm a fraud. I'm not saying not to track and measure your successes. It's a fine idea, but it may not be the answer to imposter syndrome. Here's my favorite thing on Google: fake it till you'll make it. If you fake it to the top and reach your goal, you may still feel like a fake. Look at Maya Angelou. Besides, you want to stop feeling like a fake. Why would you want to keep faking it? This woman in the bathroom thought I was successful, and I probably already had a few hundred performances under my belt. But all I thought was, I'm a really good fake. Look, all of these ideas have merit and can be argued for. The mistake we make with this advice is thinking that it will create a fundamental change in how we feel. It might for a few, so it's always worth giving them a go. But for most of us, we've got to look deeper. Now, for those of you who have no issue with self-doubt, anxiety, or imposter syndrome, good for you. However, take notes, because this talk can help you support friends and colleagues or family members who might struggle with these feelings. And who knows, you might discover some valuable insights to boost your own confidence. Now, for those of you who have been where I've been, who have felt insecure, anxious, not belonging, or undeserving at some point or another, buckle up and let's go. In 2015, I launched a new business. I was going to be an online coach, something I'd never done before. For years, I was a performer and I taught dance improv classes and grew organic veggies for local restaurants. But this was really new because it was online. And that meant, how are you going to find people online? Guess what the answer was? You got to talk to people online. And so there was this thing at the time called Periscope. Periscope let you talk live in real time to people all over the world. It was called live streaming, just like what we're doing now, really. But back in 2015, it was the newest thing. And the advice from everyone was to get on every day and talk about stuff every day. Be consistent and show up every day. And I thought, okay, well, I'm scared, but I'm going to do it. Even though I'm afraid I'll freeze and my heart's racing, I'll hashtag do it scared. Every day, I tried something new to deal with the fear. Affirmations, meditation, deep breathing, power poses. I did everything I could to manage the fear because I wanted to get my business off the ground, and this was a way to do it. Plus, experience leads to confidence, right? So I just kept on going. And that's why I remember being surprised and disappointed when I was about to start the broadcast up after about 75 days in. And I thought, why is my heart still racing? Why am I still feeling this anxiety? I faked it, but I didn't make it. I didn't die doing those 75 periscopes. That was a success. But I still felt nervous. I joined a Periscope powerhouse for women, so I wasn't alone. But even though I wasn't alone, it didn't make me feel comfortable in my skin. And I thought, maybe I'm just not cut out for this. Maybe I have to give up on this idea of having a business. Or maybe I can do something so this doesn't feel so bad. After all, I thought, I have a master's degree in expressive arts therapy. I've been doing self-help since the 70s. And with my teaching and performing experiences, maybe I'll find something that will work. So I made this long list of ideas and modalities and stuff that I liked doing. And as I was scanning the list, I remember thinking, this is a really good list. This looks promising. But before I get rid of this fear, I wonder, what is this fear? So I closed my eyes and I asked if the fear could talk. What would it say? And what came back was, I'm going to be attacked. And a flood of memories came to me. Mom slapping my elder sister, Susan, and dragging Judith into the bathroom to wash her mouth out with soap. I was so upset for them, and I was scared for myself. And I made a solemn promise I'll never do anything or say anything to get me punished like that. And I didn't ever get punished by Mom, but I sure did by my sisters. Mom would say things like, "Why can't you girls be more like Linda? When I ask her to do something, she does it right away. What's wrong with you?" And that was their cue to kick me in the shins and say, "Shut up, stupid." And I realized, wait a second, this fear isn't about what's going on right now. In hundreds of performances with Labana, no one ever jumped out of the audience and yelled, "Linda, you're a fraud." Not even an unkind comment. My anxiety was because of things in the past when I learned that it was dangerous to be the center of attention. The times that I had been made fun of, or kicked, ridiculed, or rejected, or uncomfortably put on a pedestal. Some unconscious part of me was afraid of it happening again. Now, you may not have had two sisters who were jealous of you, but probably somewhere in there, your fear of applying for a job or sending an email or asking for a promotion or even attending a networking event is not just imposter syndrome. It's the memory trigger of when dad said, "Don't talk back to your elders," or mom said, "Why an A minus and not an A plus?" And I got really curious about it. If it was showing up for me, was it showing up for other people? And if I was going to have this burgeoning coaching business, maybe I needed to figure out how I could heal this. And that is where the idea of the inner freedom framework came from. And that's what we're going to explore today. I designed the inner freedom framework to take us to a place of self-doubt to self-belief and even delight, because life is too short for things that don't bring us joy. So this inner freedom framework has three parts: reveal and heal, restore safety, and repattern our habits. And by looking at these three components, we can start to dismantle the imposter syndrome and the self-doubt that holds us back. And by the way, this talk is going to have some interactive moments where I'll ask you to reflect on your experience, because I want to jumpstart your journey in overcoming these feelings of self-doubt and reclaiming your confidence. And I'll also ask you or invite you to join me in some exercises. And toward the end, as Robert said, we'll have some Q&A. So put those questions in and we'll answer those at the time. So let's start with part one, reveal and heal. Reveal the root of your imposter syndrome in order to heal it. Everyone has their own stories. I remember being so surprised by the stories I read in Tricia Montalvo Tim's book, Embrace the Power of You. Tricia and I are in a writer's group together, and I invited her on my podcast. And she told me about her parents emigrating from Ecuador and El Salvador, settling in LA. But they believed in the American dream. So rather than staying in this low-income community and in an under-resourced school, they moved the family to the suburbs where they were the only Hispanic family. And because her parents faced so much discrimination in their own lives, they advised Tricia to not tell others of her background. Over the years, Tricia excelled and had this amazing rise as an attorney for publicly traded and multinational companies, and all the while, no one knew she was Latina. She never spoke about her family, never mentioned their names, talked about their food or traditions, or spoke in Spanish. No one knew the real Tricia. On the outside, it looked like she had all the trappings of success. On the inside, she felt like an imposter. We all hide parts of ourselves. when we fear being judged. Another place Trisha felt shame was for checking the Hispanic box. She told me how affirmative action programs made her question if she belonged in the room, possibly because more than once someone made a comment to her face that she stole someone else's place, that she didn't deserve what she accomplished. And this reminded me of a conversation I had with my client, Mary. Now, she wasn't part of an underrepresented group, but she had a similar experience. In third grade, Mary took a test for a gifted kids program. And when she didn't pass, her dad, who was on the school board, got her into the program. And she said the program wasn't anything unusual, if anything, more games and art. And one day when the group was being ushered to the gifted classroom, a boy turned to her and said, "You're not really supposed to be here. You're just here because of your dad." Now, at the time Mary and I were working together, she was in a senior leadership position for a company you all have heard of. And yet she continued to believe she didn't really belong or deserve to be in her position. A single comment can make a long lasting impact for better or worse. I'll never forget the shock I had sitting across the table from my client, Andy. She was a strategic advisor for an energy giant. Yes, another company that you know. And I assumed she must feel bold and competent and powerful in such a position because she has all this experience and awards and education. But she said, just the opposite, Linda. No matter how much progress I make, I still feel like it's all a fluke. I never feel like I'm good enough. I'm terrified of judgment to the point where I've gotten panic attacks. And then I can't express myself in meetings or look people in the eye. I'm afraid people will question my qualifications or see me as not knowledgeable. Truthfully, I wanted to shake her and say, "You've gotten all of these awards. You're the expert consultant." But then I realized, oh, it's imposter syndrome. It seemed like everyone in her life told Andy that she was capable, even exemplary. Coworkers, her boss, spouse, friends, everyone. Everyone, that is, except her parents. She said, "My parents always expected me to be perfect, and I failed them. They said, 'You're such a bad daughter. You'll never be good enough.' The universe punished us when it gave us you as our kid." Whoa, can you imagine? The only moments that she felt worthy in their eyes were when she came home with that perfect report card or when she won an award. And even then, their approval only lasted some minutes. And then it was back to their critical tirades. No wonder she never felt good enough or the real deal, in spite of how many other people told her she was wonderful. She had a core wound where no matter what she did, she would never be enough for her mom and dad. And it's not as if she hadn't tried to change. She worked with heavily credentialed therapists and continued to feel like a fraud. I hope you get a sense from these stories how your past experiences can impact your self belief. The good news, though, is that once you identify the root causes, you can learn to let them go. Once Andy and I uncovered this family story, we used a technique for healing trauma where we tapped on meridian points on the face and made comments and statements using emotional freedom technique, or EFT, or tapping as it's often known. I'll talk more on that later. After that, I guided her to envision her younger self and speak to that younger Andy in ways that she needed to hear, a kind of reparenting. I suggested prompts for journal writing. I created meditations for letting go. And after a couple of months with this inner freedom framework, Andy's life opened up for her. She felt like a new person, doing things she never had the courage to do before, starting a global kindness movement, becoming an ambassador for humans first, and rebranding herself as a communications expert, all without feeling like an imposter. That is the power of reveal and heal. So you see, imposter syndrome is not a villain. It's a messenger pointing to things from the past that are asking to be resolved. Everyone has their stories. What's yours? Did you face negative stereotypes? Did you feel criticized, ridiculed, or rejected? Have you ever been bullied? Had a mean teacher who didn't get you? Did a performance that didn't go well? Felt afraid of making mistakes? Heard messages like, keep your head down, don't stand out, silence is golden. Or maybe, like me with my sisters, you witnessed the ways other people were mistreated and you made a decision not to ever let it happen to you. Now, as you go through your memories, you may be tempted to discount what arises. You might remember something and think, oh, that doesn't count. That was nothing. Don't do that. As you heard from these stories, a single negative comment that has stuck in your memory can make a long-lasting impact for better or worse. I'm going to give you a moment to jot down your thoughts on a piece of paper or in a journal so I can take a glass of water. And now we're going to do a simple healing visualization for compassion. You can just close your eyes and listen to my words. Get comfortable in your seat. In your mind's eye, let yourself see a young child. See their innocence and vulnerability. They're sad, they're hurt, scared. Maybe they have tears in their eyes. Maybe they experienced one of the stories that you remember. Imagine getting down on their level so you can look in their eyes and feel the compassion you have for them in their innocence. Tell them that they're beautiful, wonderful, worthy, that you love them. Imagine what other words you would like to say to them. And realize that you are looking into a mirror and that that child is you, and that you too are worthy of love and compassion, understanding, admiration, and forgiveness. And if it feels comfortable to you, put your hands over your heart for a minute and just take that in. You too are worthy of love and compassion, understanding, admiration, and forgiveness. And when you're ready, open your eyes. What was that like to do? If you had a memory, write yes in the comments. If you felt helped by this visualization, write helpful. Be good to know. Great, great, wonderful. Okay, now you're not going to uncover and heal all the wounds of the past in a few minutes, but I hope you see the possibilities. Because when you do the step, reveal, heal, and clear away the stuff of what I call the psychic closet, these negative experiences, the messages you heard, they fall away and you feel lighter, less burdened, more at ease, more sure of your abilities. Now, this reveal and heal might be enough to shift you out of imposter syndrome entirely. But there is, in fact, more you can do and sometimes need to do, which brings me to part 2 of the Inner Freedom Framework, Restore Safety. Most of us were exposed to an educational system that scrutinized our every move and penalized every mistake with a red pen. We've been programmed to be afraid of mistakes, to follow the rules, and to rely on others to tell us if we're good enough. So it makes sense that as adults, we still worry about messing up, if we made the grade, and what other people will think. Now, criticism activates the fear center in the brain, the amygdala, and it brings out this feeling of shame of not being good enough. Yet, how can you possibly not make mistakes when you're navigating a job market that's constantly changing or starting a new role with responsibilities that are beyond your current skills? So, of course, the job search journey is going to be scary. And this is why the second step of restoring safety is so important to eliminate our fear. If we're going to take risks, if we're going to navigate the uncertainties of the job search and new career opportunities that stumbled out, we need to feel safe enough to be brave, not just safe in our environment, but also safe inside our own heads. You know, back in the 90s, I performed a series of solo improvisational sound and movement events. I'd come up with 5 or 6 improv structures for each performance. And I really loved playing around and making stuff up on the fly in movement. And as a teacher at the Laungy School of Music in Cambridge at the time, I had this ready made audience. And the first performance went great, and the second one too. And I began to muse about what I would do for the third. And in my eagerness, I shared one of my ideas with my boyfriend that I was really psyched about. It was the time of catalogs. Do you remember how everyone was inundated with catalogs like it was Halloween candy? I had this fun idea to come out on stage with 2 paper bags stuffed full of catalogs, dump them on the floor, and then to take it from there, improvising. My boyfriend said, "That doesn't sound very interesting." 5 words. Those 5 words snuffed out my flame. I never did that third improvisational concert that year or ever again. When we ideate, when we create or express ourselves, we need encouragement, not criticism. We need to feel confident enough about our ideas so we can take those risks that need to be taken. What we need to do is create safe spaces and places where we know we're not going to get criticized, where we can be in process, where it's not just okay to be rough, it's celebrated. Imagine this scenario. You're sharing your idea or career goals with your mentor, a potential employer, or a close friend, and they say, I don't see how that's going to work. I haven't seen that before. I don't think people will pay for that. How would you feel after that? I know I felt deflated. Now imagine this different scenario in a different way, or the same scenario in a different way. You're sharing your idea or career goals with your mentor, potential employer, or a friend, and they say, "Oh, I love that idea. What I love about it is that I can see how this can lead to X, Y, or Z." Or, "I love the phrase you just used there. That's a powerful word." Or, "I love the passion you have here. Tell me more." How would you feel about that response? Which one would you rather have? So, how we create safe spaces for ideas, creativity, putting ourselves out there? How do we do that when our model is that red pen? We do it by affirming what is already working, what is strong, what's interesting, what's curious, compelling. Be specific, it doesn't matter how small. And spend time igniting other people's fire. Be that person who says, "I love what you said there. I don't know where this is going, but it seems really exciting." Do it with your colleagues, with your network connections, and even your family and friends. To paraphrase one of my mentors and author, Howard Glasser, when you help others feel great about themselves, they act out greatness. So be the creator of safe and brave spaces and help others find their comfort zone. That's where the magic happens. And one of the byproducts of finding the positive in others is that you learn to use these positive reflections toward yourself as well. And that's a good thing because, let's be honest, although we worry about what others think of us, we can be our own harshest critics. My client Sumit was the CFO of a tech company and had to present quarterly. He always memorized his script and he practiced over and over and over. And even so, his heart rate went through the roof. We did some reveal and heal, and he told me he was always in his head. So I said, let's take a look at the thoughts you got in there. And it turned out he was right. There were plenty, and it sounded something like this. You're not a good speaker. Look at your partner. He's so natural, so much better than you. You're dull and boring. That was dumb. You messed up. Stop rambling. People are going to see you're nervous. They're going to think you're incompetent. It was pretty harsh. But it gets worse because he'd have these thoughts right before speaking and psych himself out. Let's say you had a colleague who said these things to you. Would you feel safe around them? Of course not. You might even call this person a bully or toxic. And yet these judgments go by almost unnoticed in our own heads. Without realizing it, Sumit had created an unsafe environment inside his own head. He had a strict and demanding judge, an inner bully who pounced on and berated him for every perceived imperfection. Without realizing it, you too may be creating an unsafe environment in your head where you are afraid of your own judgment. Which may be why a joint study between the University of Massachusetts and McGill in Canada found that when we criticized ourselves, we are less likely to achieve our goals. Let me say that again. When we criticize ourselves, we are less likely to achieve our goals. And as job seekers, you can't afford to let that happen. So, how do you move from a place of inner bullying to a place of inner safety? A couple of years ago, I got a book called Big Magic by the famous writer Elizabeth Gilbert. She's the one who wrote Eat, Pray, Love, and a huge creative, someone you want to learn from. So I grabbed the book, great book, and I'm reading, and I feel like I should agree with everything she says because she's Elizabeth Gilbert, but I don't agree with her. She was talking about how we need to relegate our inner critic to the back seat of the car. Get its grubby hands off the wheel. Let its yapping be in your ear, but just keep pushing it away. I don't agree because I don't see the inner critic as a villain, but rather a noisy messenger pointing to things that need to be resolved. And here's what I discovered through my investigation. Though the inner critic seems to be against us, it's really for us. It actually wants the best for us. It wants the same things we want. It's just fearful, wounded, and has a lousy way of expressing itself. However, just as we get better in communicating with others, we can learn to grow our communication skills with ourselves. We can invite the inner critic to speak with more depth and wisdom. We can let the voice of the inner critic expand and transform into the voice of a supportive ally. I asked Sumit to consider these questions, and I'm going to ask them of you too. Which would you prefer? Would you prefer to feel worried or to trust? To feel tense or feel at ease? Blame or understanding? Rejection or acceptance? Would you prefer frustration or forgiveness? Criticism or appreciation? Anger or encouragement? Perfection or connection? I imagine it was clear to you what you would choose, and it was clear to Sumit as well. He made a commitment to keep these intentions top of mind, to be encouraging to himself before he spoke. Like how you can be encouraging to yourself before an interview. Did it help? Indeed, it did. When we met again, he reported that at his next town hall meeting with the company, he didn't feel nervous, over rehearsed, and it felt fluid. He felt engaged with the audience rather than in his head thinking what he is doing wrong now. You know, I attended a spiritual workshop some years ago, and there was one main message. No one in your life can be there for you 100% of the time. Not your business partner, not your colleague, spouse, parent, friend, child, or mentor. They may really, really want to be there for you 100% of the time, but they simply can't. They've got responsibility to themselves and other people in their lives. There is, however, someone who can be there for you 24/7, and that person is you. You have the capacity to be your biggest supporter, your kindest coach, your staunchest advocate. Dedicate yourself to being that person. Let's review the Inner Freedom Framework. Part 1 is reveal and heal. Part 2 is restore safety. When you're assured of your own inner kindness, encouragement, and understanding, you create an inner comfort zone where it's safe to take more risks. And this gives you inner freedom to make new choices and change how you've been into how you want to be, which is what we're going to do in part 3 of the Inner Framework, the Inner Freedom Framework. Repattern our habits to reshape our experience. We don't want to stay stuck in the version of ourselves that we've adopted and adapted from traumatic experiences. We want to update ourselves and feel free to move into new ways of being that feel more expansive, satisfying, in alignment. So when we repattern, we create new habits for how we want to feel in our bodies, in our thinking, how we want to feel emotionally, and even spiritually, how we express ourselves. And you get to redesign your experience into the one you want. So the question is, what do you want? How do you want to feel? How do you want to be? Write some comments or words in the chat of how you would like to feel. Is it confident, organized, bold, brave? Give me some words so that we can use. And let's see. Waiting for those words. Confident, confident. What else? Worthy, calm, more confident, less self-doubt. Yes, light, bolder, leader, radiant, focused, free, independent from expectations, others and mine, hopeful, included, respected. Love these. Confident, able to take risks and speaking, empowered, confident, respected, yet oh, love all of these. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so I have 3 guiding principles for repatterning our habits. Whatever you want to practice that. You want relaxation? Practice relaxation. You want boldness? Practice being bold. Nothing is too small to practice. And thirdly, make it interesting. Ways to practice? Visualize it, voice it, speak it, sing it, paint it, journal about it, share about it. Explore it in the way you sit and stand, in the way you breathe and relax, in the way you walk and move, in the way you dance. Okay, let's do it together. Let's try an example. Let's try out some of the things we want right now, just in how you are sitting in your chair. I'm going to call out a word, and I want you to allow that word and the energy or meaning of the word to actually change how you are physically sitting and how you feel inside yourself. Just for fun and experimentation. There's no right way to do this. Just be open and curious to try it out. Okay. Confident. How does that change how you sit? Chill. How does that change how you sit? Blase, grateful, enthusiastic, calm. All right. Now trust that you are already changing the neural pathways that are moving you into these things that you desire. So, to summarize, when you are clear of the negative burdens of the past, when you find that deep compassion within yourself, when you find ways to stay connected and embodied with the energy, voice, and your self expression that you want, you realize you are enough. And that imposter syndrome just becomes someone you used to know. Okay, before I conclude, we're going to have some Q&A now. And Robert, have you been keeping your eye on some questions?
Let's do it.
Okay.
So, and folks, let's give Linda a big virtual round of applause for a great presentation. And as Linda said, we will take some Q&A now. If you have questions, try to get them into the Q&A box. I will also look at the chat box, but it would be nice to have all the questions in the same spot. So Lawrence asks, what happens when people see you as confident while you are scared inside? How can you get rid of this self-doubt feeling?
Well, that's exactly, maybe, excuse me, maybe that question came early on because that's what this whole inner freedom framework is about, is how do you stop faking it or stop appearing to be confident when you're not? You want that experience for yourself for real. And the way you do that is by clearing away these past triggers that told you you weren't good enough, that it wasn't safe to be in front of people. You need to uncover what those experiences are and heal them. Now we just did one small healing modality. In my book in chapter 5, I've got many modalities, and of course in my coaching and my programs, I also help people learn how to do it or guide it through them with it. So that's number one. The second thing is to look at what you're thinking in your mind. Because if you are being a bully to yourself, you're going to not feel safe in front of other people. You are going to be psyching yourself out, just like my client Sumit did. And thirdly, you've got to build your skills. You got to swap those old ways of being out with building your skills, or what does the confidence actually feel like for real? Where do I feel confident in my life? And practice feeling confident in more places. Notice where you're already at ease and amplify it with the people who you're most comfy with. Let it shine out more. Be bolder. Explore yourself. Okay, I hope that answers the question. What's
Yeah,
next?
I think so. So R says, I agree regarding creating safe spaces, but how do you get to a place where the criticism, whether it's from a partner or a boss, just rolls off your back instead of deflating you?
Yes, I understand. It's hard when you are in an environment that is not supportive. And I think it makes you have to, I think you've got to take it on as this is one of the challenges I've been given in my life to strengthen my inner resolve. So understand that when someone is critical of you, they're probably critical of themselves, and that it's a way and that they don't know any other way. So, number one is to have some compassion for them for probably being in the same place that you are, of being worried about criticism. They grew up in the same educational system. They might have had a parent who was always telling them they were wrong or they weren't good enough. So have some compassion. The second thing that you can do, so the first thing actually is to be kind to yourself and just know it's not about you. It's more about them. Of course, we can always grow, we can always learn, we can always improve, but that doesn't mean that we have to accept criticism. So, number two, understand their criticism is that they don't know a better way. Number three, if you think that they'd be open to it, let them know what is helpful for you in their feedback. In fact, I'm dealing with this right now. I'm working with somebody in writing posts, and she's not really punitive, but it feels a little bit like school. It feels like she uses red ink when she replies to me. And I plan to say, you know what? Instead of using red, can you use blue? Because it's a little bit triggering for me. And also, what works really best is when I hear what I'm already doing that's strong, because that makes me encouraged and it motivates me to do more. Just like how I said, Howard Glasser says, when we're made to feel great about ourselves, we act out greatness. So, in some ways, let them know, or let other people at least know, your colleagues who are supportive, let them know that you right now or for a while really need to hear some positive feedback, positive reflections on what they're seeing is strong, what's working, what they like, because you need a boost. Simple as that. What's next?
And again, we may have, I know your presentation's all about this, but I'll ask the question. Priya asks, when something happened in our past, like a negative comment, how do we let go of it and take it off our minds going forward?
Yes. So I'm going to share with you in a minute some resources that will be about the EFT, which I think is an amazing modality to use. And I do have a demo of that for you to use. So, again, in chapter 5 of my book, I talk about or the things that I already mentioned that I worked with Andy on, journaling about it, uh, reparenting yourself. So, using some creative visualization where you visit yourself at that time and talk to yourself in a way that you wish that someone talked to you, but they weren't there. You didn't have that teacher, mentor, or parent who was able to help you out, or maybe they were part of the problem, or maybe they just didn't know how. So we need to like reparent ourselves. And reparent, it doesn't necessarily mean when we're a child. It could be even last year or last week. We need to be that kind of, we need to internalize the kind of parent, coach, mentor, teacher for ourselves that we wish we had around, that we can be that way for ourselves.
Nothing like a 1025 political comment, but I think people can relate to this. Gretchen says, personally, I am having a conflicted time with imposter syndrome. But then I look at the current government and think they're all imposters. What am I worried about? If they can be total imposters and get to high positions of power and be paid buckets of money, why should I feel like an imposter? So, Linda, I don't know if that was a rhetorical question or not, but do you have any comments there?
I just love it. I mean, you can see how gleeful. Oh, you know what? Why am I should well, I can people see me even though I'm still sharing my
Yes.
screen? Okay,
Yeah.
good. Um, I love that. I love that. And I think you can turn that into a mantra for yourself. I don't know exactly what it would be, but hey, I'm more real than they are, or I am way more authentic than they are, or whatever it is that helps you uh, own your place. That everyone, and the truth is, like, everyone is trying to figure it out. I mean, maybe when we look at our government, they're not trying to figure out. They're just like, giving us the finger. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe we have no idea if they're trying their best or they're just flaunting what they can get away with. But the truth is that, as I said, you are not alone in this. And you may as well find some kind of mantra or anchor that you can tell yourself that actually, I've got this. Actually, I really know my stuff. Actually, I'm good. I am good enough. Now, if you are struggling with it, do the Inner Freedom Framework. By the way, my book, Delight in the Limelight, it's a guide to get you over this. Very, very inexpensive, less than 20 bucks, and you can have a step-by-step guide.
So, Mary Lynn, you've asked a few questions that I addressed at the beginning. You might have been a little late. So, we are in webinar mode, so all the audience is purposely muted. I will send the chat to everyone, and I will send the slides and the recording to everyone this afternoon. So, hopefully, that answers most of your questions there. Claire
Okay.
asks,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
Claire,
so there are some more? Okay.
yeah.
Because
Oh, well, we're not done yet, Linda. We can do a
okay,
few
good,
more.
good,
We'll
good.
do a few more.
Okay.
Claire says, "Is there some advice you can give if you are being pigeonholed in a position, and that can make you feel like an imposter, even though you know you have the skills to do more?"
You know, it reminds me of a story of my friend Paula Rizzo, who got hired and at this company, and they asked her to go pick up the coffee at Starbucks. And she purposefully put in the order incorrectly and brought it back. And when they saw that she was incompetent to fetch coffee, they never asked her to do it again. So, I mean, that was a very bold move. You know, in some ways, we want to be nice, we want to be a player. But if you're feeling like you don't want to do it, you have to make that communicated somehow. I don't know if you want to be so bold as to like hand in something that is under par, or if you want to have a talk with your manager. I would probably go with the talk with your manager and say, I feel like I'm being underutilized and I don't want you to be wasting your money on me doing this when I have all this expertise. And that's how I would frame it, as how you have so much more value for the company than what they're asking you to do.
We'll take two more questions. Melanie asks, I've let the changes in my inner self impact me to the point where my surroundings are out of control. How do you reverse the spiral into an upward direction?
That's a real powerful question because I can feel this sense of kind of defeat in there, or disappointment, or frustration and discouragement is, I guess, the feeling. What I would do is I would spend time feeling that feeling, just letting it arise, and then asking yourself, is this feeling something that one of my parents or someone in my family felt? And let's assume that they did. And I suggest that you assume that they did. And then send them compassion. And then the next thing I want you to do is to, doing your best, send yourself love. Say loving things to yourself. Maybe even picture yourself as a baby or as a young child and do that compassion exercise we did today. And just tell yourself loving, loving things. Simple. Feel the feelings, think of your parents, send them compassion, and then give yourself love. Try that out. Next question.
Uh, yes, final question. We'll go to Douglas. Do you have any advice on how to eliminate self sabotage?
Ah, I would take the approach with that the same way I approach the fear of speaking that I did, or the inner critic. And I would say, what is this self sabotage all about? So investigate it, journal about it. What is it trying to tell you? Where is it showing up? What is it not letting you do? Figure out, is it something you really want to do, or is it something that you're trying to fulfill because of someone else's expectations? Maybe they're not even your own, and that's what the self sabotage is about. Or maybe it is something that you want, but you're feeling not good enough or you're not deserving. Then you got to go to the reveal and heal. Work with the inner freedom framework. Okay, so earlier I told you about that time in the bathroom where the woman was saying all these nice things to me and I couldn't hear it. Like, no, I'm not that good. No, I'm not that competent. No, I'm not all those things, because I didn't feel that way. But by going through the inner freedom framework, those thoughts no longer invade my brain. I no longer hear the self doubt, the family or school stuff, the other people telling me that I didn't belong. So now when someone says, I love the sound of your voice, I hear in my head, I hear that. I can receive that. When someone says, you belong in that room, I think, yeah, I do. And I also deserve to be touched in a bathroom if I want. And this is what happens when you get to the other side of imposter syndrome. What does it look for you on the other side of imposter syndrome? You meet someone and they say, wow, you got that job? And you think, yeah, I did. I got it and I deserve it. I believed in myself and I kept showing up. I cleared these things that were holding me back. I become the staunchest ally that I can be, and I allow myself the freedom to grow into a more authentic me. How would that feel? How would that feel? That's the journey we're on. Let's go change the world. Thank you.
So, folks, let's give Linda one last big virtual round of applause. Look for this recording, look for the slides, and look for the chat in an email from me later today. In that email will also be information about some other upcoming programs for job seekers. Our 50 plus job seekers networking group is back from its summer hiatus next Wednesday, August 6th. And then we will have a webinar for all job seekers on Wednesday, August 13th, with Tom McDonough from the Institute for Career Transitions. The name of his talk is Job Search Triage. All right, so Linda, thumbs up, great job. Lots of positive feedback in the chat, a lot of audience engagement, a lot of emojis, and I'll make sure to send you the feedback survey results tomorrow.
Okay, I just want to mention that when you scan this book resources, what you'll get is a demonstration of me doing emotional freedom technique. So you can use that to clear away anything that came up or anything that is likely to come up. And also there is in there these exercises called PACE, P-A-C-E, that are going to be wonderful for you to do before you go into a job interview. They'll get you grounded and focused and bring both sides of your brain together. So it's operating the way you want.
Great. Didn't mean to cut you off, Linda. So, and folks, this slide will be included in the slides you receive this afternoon. So scan it now or scan it later. But thank you all so much, and I do hope everyone enjoys the rest of their week. Thanks again, Linda.
Thank you, Robert, and thank you everyone for showing up.